Okay, good morning. Hi. At last, we are chatting to Karen Dawes after a few technical glitches, but I'm so happy to have Karen here because she is a personal growth consultant, and I know that she's been on an amazing journey to get to where she is now in her business and her life, as a mom and a homeschool mom, and the things that Karen's done with her life. And I've known Karen for a long time, but sort of just part of a bigger community. Sort of connecting through kids and that sort of thing. But the reason why I'm so excited about this particular interview is I've recently made a little shift in my business to start calling myself a small business minimalist, which isn't really a big structural change in my business. I'm still doing exactly the same things. I've just realized that that name suits me, and that kind of energy, and that idea of coming from a place of creating a business with intention and creating things that are light and simple and that flow for you is actually what I've always been about. Well, let's not say always in this business have always been about, because I definitely not have always been about doing things in a simple way. My kind of personal journey with what Karen's going to talk about, which is aligning your personality with your business, is that I spent so many years doing things in a way that I thought was expected of me, and that I thought was the way that it must be done. You know, coaches or service providers would come into my business and say, this is the way to do it. You have to do your books this way, and you have to use this program, or you have to teach this way. And also there's an element there of doing things the way that I thought my family expected or society expected. So in being a small business minimalist, the very first step that you have to take is to align your business with your personality type. And that is what I think Karen can help us hugely with. And so I'm really excited after that long introduction to hand over to Karen. And why don't you just start off by telling us a little bit about you and your kind of what you do now and your journey towards getting to what you do today.
Yeah, sure. And I love that we had such difficulty in trying to connect, because I love that this is real and this is a safe place for that to happen. And this is what happens when you're starting out. You sometimes can't figure things out and you can't make things work. And that's just the way it is. So I am a Zimbabwean South African, and I lived in South Africa for 15 years after leaving Zimbabwe. But in the last 2 years, my husband and I moved to Mauritius for 2 years while he worked on an animated feature film. And that brought about the transition of, I was a homeschooling mom, and then suddenly all my kids were at school, and I was on an island with no one I knew. And it was that pivotal moment of, okay, what on earth am I doing? What am I going to do with my life? What do I want to do with my life? And it was a very, very special time, but I'm not going to lie, it was pretty hard when you lose your identity and you lose your community at the same time, and you have to then try and figure out what it is that you want to do. And I was very fortunate in that I had time to kind of allow ideas to distill on the island, and you really can't ask for a better place than a tropical paradise for that to happen. But I remember resurrecting ideas and really looking at what brought me passion. And one day I was walking down the beach, and I remember stopping and thinking, I would love to help people, but I don't want to be a life coach. And that was the only kind of term that came to mind. And I had been on a huge journey of personal growth. And I remember literally the little alleyway I was walking down when I suddenly felt inside of me, would just be a personal growth consultant. And I had never heard of that term before. In fact, I don't know anybody who is defined by that term, but it felt like such a beautiful new identity that I could step into. And so, Leanne, with your journey in becoming the small business minimalist, I've loved that pivot, because you don't have to fit into a mold that is out there. In today's world, you get to create whatever it is that makes you come alive, and call it whatever you like you really can. We're on this threshold of something beautiful and new.
Yes, and I love what you said about, I don't want to be a life coach, because I think I've wanted to do what I'm doing now for probably 5-6 years, but the idea of being a business coach was like, I don't really want to be a business coach. So I eventually went for it and called myself that initially, because
Yeah.
And again, even in starting this business, that was the advice. Like, no, you must call yourself that. People won't understand if you don't.
Yeah.
So this, as you say, this like pivot and stepping into a new role and just calling it what fits has been quite like a watershed moment for me.
Yeah.
So yeah, actually that's a really good first point. You don't have to label yourself anything that doesn't feel right for you.
No. And I think on my business journey, like I began to research things like, I mean, it's crazy what actually ends up making money out there. Like in Australia, there was it's called the potato parcel. You literally write messages on potatoes and send them to people. And it is a thriving business. I kid you not. Now, whatever you are thinking, people who are watching this, like whatever your idea is, I promise you someone needs it. Someone out there is going to think that it's fun or quirky or different. Yeah, I just want to encourage you. Like,
yeah, there's space. I mean, there is a lot to be said for finding something that fits the market and making sure you don't want to cause yourself a lot of uphill struggle by trying to be so unique.
Yeah.
But there's also another side to it, which is if you are genuinely passionate about something, that will show you, and you will be able to create a business out of it. I've seen it a lot, especially in the last 6 months, the sort of journey I've been on. People have created businesses, as you say, out of the most incredible things.
Yeah.
So what is it that you do now? What is your process of working with people and how do you help people? What's the kind of...
So I think during my journey in Mauritius of trying to find and identify who I really was and what my gifts and talents were, I came across a personality typing tool called the Enneagram. And it does sound a little bit funny, but all it means is like a 9-sided drawing. And it basically helps you to understand the different ways that people see the world, the different lenses that people wear when they are looking out at the world. And I found it absolutely life-giving. It really, for the first time in 43 years, I had got to the point where I was like, oh my word, I'm made this way, and these are my gifts and my talents, and I don't need to be ashamed of them anymore, and I don't need to constantly live in comparison with other people. And it really just brought me to a place of absolute self-compassion. And when that happens and you start to really love the way that you've been wired, it's amazing the freedom and how bold you become. And it really was like discovering this treasure. And I was like, well, I've just got to share this. I've got to share this with everybody. And so I kept talking about it with friends, and they were like, Karen, we don't have the time to go and do all the research that you do, because I love researching. So I can spend hours learning about something and reading all the books and listening to the podcasts. And they're like, no, we don't want to learn about it. Can't you just teach us? And I was like, wait, what? I mean, I'm a teacher by profession. So I was like, oh no, this is absolutely up my alleyway. And so I got together a few friends and I started doing these kind of live workshops where I'd talk through how to use the Enneagram and how to unlock who you truly were. And people paid me for it. And I was like, hey, hang on a minute. This can really be a business opportunity. And as I started to work with it, they were like, well, Karen, how can we apply this to our marriage? Or Karen, how can we apply this to our parenting journey? And I was like, oh, hang on, wait, I can even do more. I can do courses on each of these things. And so I launched a number of live workshops in Mauritius, and I love the energy of being with people and really watching lives change. So watching women, and I had a few men as well, but watching them, that process of self-acceptance is unlike anything that I've ever experienced before. Just that utter joy and the way that people land in, oh my goodness, I no longer have to try and change who I am. I'm going to embrace the way that I've been made. And what I love about the Enneagram is that it does that. It doesn't change. You can't ever change how you see, but you can change what you do. And I love that. And so in coming back to Cape Town, I've now, with the coronavirus and lockdown and all of that, I've now realized that I need to try and transition it into an online model. And so I've spent the last couple of months putting everything online and working out how to run an online course. And that's a slow process for me. So that's what I've been doing.
Well done. Well done.
Thanks.
Wow, it is a big leap to go from those in-person kind of...
Yeah, and that is my first prize, but it's just not sustainable right now. I don't know how long we're going to be in this holding pattern. So
yes, yeah. And when you've got a family, I mean, it does help to have a
Yeah.
certain level of not, I don't like the term necessarily passive income, but to have
No,
your
absolutely.
online and to have it
Yeah.
like
And
something
also,
that lives there and people can access without you having to physically
yeah,
enter it.
it enables me to reach a wider market. You know, my folks are quite keen to do the course, but they don't live in Cape Town. And I've got cousins who are quite interested and they don't live in Cape Town. And so gradually I'm hoping that, you know, you'll develop an international reach as well. I mean, that's the first prize, really. So, yeah.
Has a limit with the internet. Right?
Yeah. Yeah.
That's brilliant.
Yeah.
I really love that. And I especially love what you said about, women suddenly realizing like, oh,
Yeah.
I'm made this way and I don't have to
Yeah.
apologize for that or try and be something that I'm not. Because I think women especially, well, actually men too, we tend to grow up in this way that we have to fit a mold. And
Yeah.
societal mold and there's family mold, and even within friendship circles, you find, you've got to, I mean, I've definitely been there where you feel like, well, if I don't do these things and wear these things and say these things, they're not going to accept me as part of this group anymore. And becoming more aware that you are who you are and you're made that way,
absolutely,
and actually nothing, and to try and change that, it just causes some pain and struggle. To get to that point is amazing. So I love that you are giving people that space to do that and the tools to do that. Fantastic.
And I think the Enneagram, what I love about it is that it gives you the language to start to recognize things. So in stepping into my own freedom, I can now be like even in the way, honestly, the way that you do business is so different to the way that I do business, but I can recognize that we are completely different. We are wired completely differently. And because of that, I'm like, wow, you do this in such an amazing way. But that's not for me. And so that gives me freedom to be able to just bear witness to the wonderful journey that you're on, and also be like, okay, I can't do it Leanne's way. I actually just can't. I'm going to do it my way. And I think if we could extend that grace to one another, can you imagine what our communities would be like?
Imagine.
I
think that's such a big part of the mission that I feel like I have now, because especially working with women in the online space, there's a lot of very formulaic kind of coaching or methods and things like that people are getting themselves so tied up in knots because they're trying to apply a formula that they've been taught is the way to make $20,000 a week in your pajamas, and you do it this way, and they're getting so tied up in knots thinking, oh, I'm just useless, I'm just a rubbish person at business, I'm never going to make it. But actually it's just that it's not a fit for them. So it's got to be, the first step is it's got to be
absolutely.
And it starts with choosing the right business, but it also continues throughout your business. There's never going to be a business where you 100% love every tiny aspect of it if you're running, it all yourself. So it's also constantly checking in and going like, why don't I enjoy the finance side? I don't enjoy the finance side. Well, it doesn't suit my personality. So to understand that, well, it doesn't suit me, and stop beating yourself up for not understanding it or not.
Absolutely.
And then it gives you the space to go, okay, well, I'm going to look at this piece of my business as something that I will eventually outsource. So exactly, because I have to, but I can get to a point, and that just also gives you so much freedom. Like it's not over your head. Like this is something. Like, this is the price you have to pay for having a business, doing all the rubbish. There's so much in every tiny detail of your business that can be made lighter by understanding yourself.
Absolutely, which is why it's now my passion, and I love it. I love watching lights come on inside of people, and I keep saying it, like I don't know how else to say it, just that freedom of, wow, this is me and I am awesome.
You find that the people that you work with also then get a sense of allowing other people to just be who they are, perhaps a parent or even as a business partner. That's such an important part of the journey as well, I think.
There is another tool that I love to work with when I'm working with people who are specifically trying to launch a business, and that is the Gallup Strength Finders. And the way to look at it is the Strength Finders tell you sort of how you're good at something, and the Enneagram tells you why you're good at something. And I quite like that. So I've done both. And I love knowing Strength Finders works on what your strengths are. And so one of my top strengths is discipline. Like, it's not difficult for me to sit down in the mornings and to work the whole day. In fact, I crave that. And it's not a reality for me with trying to digital school 4 kids now during the lockdown. But my husband does not have that gift at all in his top 5. And he is in awe that I am so driven and that's what I can do. But we're both very effective in our different businesses, but we both have to recognize what our different strengths are.
Yes.
And I love that.
Yeah, that's very interesting. I think that's another sort of big part of it for me, is just understanding that we all are wired differently. Because so in struggling in my own business for so long, because I was doing things that weren't right for me, I also used to get so frustrated that, and I know friends who still do this actually, I often have these conversations, friends who work with their husbands, I would get so frustrated with him for, like, I would sit down and work for 5 hours and solve a problem, and he would sit down for 5 minutes and bounce around the room, and I'd be I would take it as, you aren't as committed as me. Why can't you be as committed as me to this to get this done? So understanding yourself better, you can sort of give other people the grace. Oh, okay. Why differently? That's okay. And getting to that point, well, for me, it meant breaking away from my husband's business, to be honest, and realizing I can't work with that energy.
Absolutely. And that is the healthiest thing for you to do. Yes.
Exactly. Because why, if it's causing any element of your business that's causing the struggle, you've got to find a way to accept it or move away from it.
And rather keep your marriage and lose the business together. The other way around.
If it's between the two, I mean, come on.
Yes.
Okay, so what at the moment you're working on your course?
So at the moment I am filming my first webinar to kind of explain to people what the Enneagram is, and that is going to lead into my first course, which is an introduction to the Enneagram. And once I've built that out, I want to build out an Enneagram and a marriage course and a parenting course. And I was actually thinking, I lay in bed a long time last night thinking about this podcast, and I was like, oh yeah, Enneagram and entrepreneurs. Well, that's a good one. I should do a course on that. So my mind just keeps going. But that is what I'm building out right now.
I love when you get to the place where you're so excited and there's just not enough.
I know. There's not enough hours in the day. Exactly.
And when it's coming from a place of helping people, it's amazing. So I wanted to ask you, so in terms of, so the way I view business is that there's like a step-by-step approach. The first step is you've got to choose something right for you. And then you've done my sort of watered down version of my course that I do, which is, you've got to choose the right products, you've got to price them, know who your customer is. But towards the end of that cycle, which I think is kind of where you are now, you really have to, what's really important is to build out a network of people that can support you, and also to start building an audience. So I was just wondering that, I've got quite a keen eye when I chat to someone for seeing, okay, I can see you've been through like the first 6 steps. You're definitely on the network and audience part. So where are you with that? And are you enjoying that part of the process?
Oh, no. So I hate that part. I'm going to be very honest with you. No. Putting myself out there. No, who would want to do that? But that is part of also knowing myself. And the Enneagram is a beautiful tool because it looks at the core fears of the 9 lenses. And because of where I sit on the Enneagram, my core fear is being bad or being as corrupt. And so that is the very real fear that I bring to putting myself out there. What are people going to think? And so my huge journey right now is actually a mindset journey of, but Karen, do you believe that what you have can help somebody and can solve a problem? Yes. Then who are you to keep quiet about it? And that's quite a big mindset change. And so now it is like, Leanne, when you first asked me to be on this, I was like, no, pass. I don't want to be on this. No. I'm going to run 1,000,000 miles. And then after I said no to you, I was like, no, actually, what are you doing? You've got to, I have to keep choosing Brene Brown has this beautiful quote: choose courage over comfort, day in and day out. And it's a muscle, it's a skill. And honestly, being here with you now feels like the most natural thing in the world. Don't know why I was so afraid, but I've got to keep showing up. I've got to keep putting myself out there. And so definitely networking an audience is a challenge for me, because I'm also not a social media fan. And so how can you build an audience? You know, that's, for me, like you mentioned the formulas earlier, it's a very formulaic way of gathering an audience. And so what is authentic for me? Even if my growth is slower, if I chose to do it like just through my WhatsApp contacts first, like, is that my first port of call? And then how do I get bigger? Is it by word of mouth? And then do I go to social media once I've worked through all my fears? Does that make sense?
Totally. And that's the best way to do it. It has to be. Just start small with what you know, with what feels comfortable, and then to slowly push the boundaries. And I mean, I've got to say, I totally relate. I was in exactly this. And 6 months ago,
I look at you in awe. I'm like, wow.
And everything I read and everything I research says you've got to get visible. And I'm like, what, really? Put my face
exactly.
And I'm in a group of businesswomen, and someone said, what's your biggest struggle this week? And I said, with visibility. And I said, I wake up at 2 a.m. and go like, oh my gosh, my face is all over social media. What am I doing? I want to take it all down. People can see. I know. So it's just one of, as you say, it's like a muscle that you have to keep building. But when you start to see, you know, I've pushed the boundaries, as you say, I started with who I knew, and I've slowly grown that circle and grown it. And when you push the boundaries and you start to see the results, and I'm not talking about business growth results, I'm talking about like actually impacting people. Yeah. And being in a Facebook group and someone else tags me and says, like, I'm the person to go to because I helped her so much. And I honestly don't even remember who she was. You know, it's like that you realize, like you said, you're doing like a disservice by not telling them what you want. And you have to help them to find you, because you know you can help them and get
So, and I love that. You have to help them to find you, because they don't even know you exist. And that's such a gem. That's beautiful. Yeah.
And you have to just keep that in the back of your mind all the time. I'm not being sleepy. I'm not being guilty. I'm not, you know, doing the wrong thing. I'm doing the right thing. I'm helping people to find me, and I'm impacting lives. And that's the bottom line.
Yeah.
Yes, but network. And actually, part of sort of building a network and building an audience is surrounding yourself with the right people. So it's choosing, it's choosing those kind of business contacts who align with what you do, and and learning from them and asking them questions. And I'm a big believer that you've got to have that network as well as the audience. That your network isn't like a bunch of people that you try and sell to all the time. It's people who learn from and who can support you. Yeah. Okay, last question.
Yes.
Which I'm always interested to know how you create like headspace in your day, how you make your business feel unstressful and enjoyable. Like, what structures do you use? What sort of productivity tools, or what sort of structures do you have in your day so that it doesn't...
Those are good questions. I think it really helps that, so because I'm who I am, I'm a very driven, organized, disciplined person, which is great. And so, like, literally, here is my list. I'll show you. This is my list for today. So I work every night. Whatever I've managed to achieve in that day gets crossed off a list. I create a new post-it with what I need to do the next day. And I find that when I'm intentional about what I want to create, I manage to get a lot more done. And I break down my tasks into bite-sized bits, because as a busy mom, I don't often get 2 to 3 hours to sit down and do something. I can snatch half an hour here, 20 minutes here. I'm in the car while I'm doing this. Okay, maybe something there. And so it really is breaking it down. I must say that I also intentionally do create, and that's been a game changer for me during lockdown, is I have intentionally created actually larger chunks of time, especially as I'm trying to launch my business. And so it's a catch-22, but I have actually employed my elder daughter to look after my youngest daughter. And so what I've got now is a little system, and it's a 2-hour babysitting slot. And that is my time. And all my kids know I cannot be disturbed. And when those 2 hours are up, I have to relinquish that, which sometimes is very hard because I'm in a flow. But I think that's, so intentionally setting aside time and then having a plan are game changers for me in being able to take larger steps forward, because I felt that, like at the beginning of lockdown, and even because lockdown was really, it all came to a head, and I was like, okay, I've got all this time. How am I going to move myself forward? If you don't have a plan, I just ended up getting stressed about all the things that I knew that I should be doing, and I didn't know how to get to any of them. So I just chose one. Just choose one and just start with it. And what happens, there's a lovely saying by Marie Forleo that clarity comes with action. The minute that you start to take action, things become clearer. And I just start taking small steps. Even if it's, the first step is, what kind of business do I want? Okay, well, sit with that and spend a week doing that. And like I saw you in the comments encouraging somebody to write down all their passions. And that is the first step. But actually do it on the day that Leanne suggests it to you, because those small actions of showing up for yourself and honoring yourself and keeping those promises to yourself end up you can reap 100-fold from that.
It's so true. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I like the idea of carving out a particular time. And I think, as a mum, it's often difficult, but I find that on days when I do have more time, like say I don't have the kids for a day, which doesn't happen here, but when I had grandparents around, I would end up messing around more. I would do less because I know, well, I've got 6 hours. Or actually when the kids are at school, I'd be like, oh, I've got 2 o'clock. And then I'd sit and mess around on Facebook for an hour.
Yeah.
Because I thought I had time.
Absolutely.
So if you chunk it and you block it and you say, this hour is for this, you don't. Yeah. Also, I would use things like social media as a procrastination tool, because something was difficult.
Exactly.
I'll just go and check out what's going over here. But if you've only got an hour to do it, you don't have time to do that. So it actually forces you to be a bit more productive. Yeah. But having a plan, big part.
Yeah. And I also love with social media, I've become I don't enjoy it, but I find myself on it, which is interesting. But also being quite strict with myself to say, well, Karen, start creating before you consume it. And that's been a game changer for me. So before I go on and just scroll mindlessly, okay, well, let me create a post, or let me create a graphic, or let me do something that's going to move me forward a step. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's like a little rule for yourself.
Yeah. And an incentive, so then I don't feel so guilty.
Yes. Yeah. On guilt, I mean, I know a lot of moms feel so guilty for working and leaving their kids to fend for themselves, or be babysat by an older sibling or something like that. But
I must say that has also been a huge mindset change for me, is if I am fulfilling something that is making me happy, I think I'm a better mom for it. And that's taken me, I mean, my eldest is now 15, so it's taken me 15 years to realize that I'm not shortchanging them. And I'm not showing up for them when they need me. But it is about, I think we're sold a lie that it's either or.
Yes.
And I'm realizing that there is a place where it's both and.
Yes.
And I really love that. I love coming to that place. But it's taken me a while.
Yeah. I think fulfilling for you it does make you a better mum, but also I think it's important. I'm a big one for modeling behavior for your children.
Absolutely.
They see you doing something and building something with joy, and they're there for the whole process, over 5 years.
Exactly.
Building. And, when they're adults and they look back, they go, wow, that must be hard. And Mum's stuck at it, and she's created something. I think that's important to see as well.
Absolutely.
That's been
and I'm very transparent with children. So I have wept in front of them on this journey. I can't do it. And they're like, it's okay, Mom, you'll get there. And then it's very sweet. Even my 5-year-old the other day, she's like, Mommy, you always tell us there's always a solution. There's a solution to this problem. She didn't even know what the problem was, but it was great because it is those life lessons of, they say statistically our kids won't hold the same job for the whole of their lives. And so if we can model this to them of starting something new and being the entrepreneur and even failing, what a wonderful way to learn the lesson
Very,
of failure.
very true. Very true.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's the same way. When I was starting out trying to make videos, and I got so frustrated because I just hated them, hated watching myself. And my daughter was like, she was 7 at the time, and she's like, okay, Mom, I'm going to show you. This is how you do it. All you do is you hold the camera and you go and you say, hi, I'm no.
Oh,
But
sweet.
it like lightens the whole journey up, I think.
Yeah.
Include them. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. We could chat all day.
Good.
But this has been wonderful. I've so enjoyed this, and I'm sure other people will enjoy it and will benefit from it too. And I always have this feeling that, you know, if one person gets the feeling from this that they need to, that they have permission, let me rather say it, they have permission to create a business that suits them and that doesn't suit the world around them, you know, the people around them, the society, then my mission is accomplished. So thank you for joining me on this. And we'll definitely.
And thank you for creating such a beautifully safe place for all of us who want to be entrepreneurs. It's great. Thank you.
I love the energy around it. It's great. Okay, thanks so much. I'm going to say goodbye.
All right. Okay, bye.